So a warm welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this Hardman Co Investor Forum. My name is Keith Hiscock and I'm the Chief Executive of Hardman Co. These forums give investors the chance to hear a company's investment case and to question the management. The final company to present today is a business called Emmerson. It's AIM listed, market cap of about 50 million. And the primary function of Emmerson is to develop a project in northern Morocco in potash. It's recently completed a feasibility study which confirmed the findings that the project has the potential to be world-class, low capital cost, high margin. It's a very rare asset in this industry, and I'm very pleased today to be joined by Graham Clark. Graham's the CEO of Emmerson. Graham, over to you.
Thank you very much, and hello everybody. Okay, right, so I'm going to talk today about our project, the Chemiset project in northern Morocco, and it is a potash development project. These are the highlights here on the introduction slide. So really the fundamentals behind the project is the increasing demand for potash. That's increasing demand for fertilizers in general, and there's a forecast trend around 2 to 3% per annum increase in demand for potash. And potash is one of the key fertilizer nutrients that all plants need to grow. So we believe the fundamentals completely support this with the world's growing population. And that offers the opportunity for new, well-located sources of supply. And where we are, northern Morocco, with access to the Moroccan market, the African market, which is growing substantially, and also from the port of Casablanca, access to all of the major fertilizer and potash markets around the world, we're actually strategically located. And that feeds into the outstanding project economics. Those are driven by the low risk of development because of the geology, and also the logistical advantage of the location. I'll talk a bit more about that as we go through the slides. We have a small team, but we have all of the key development expertise in place, and we'll add to the team as we move forward towards construction, which the target for that starting is the end of this year. And currently the share price is definitely undervalued compared to where we are on the development pathway. So just talking a little bit more about the fundamentals behind the project. So growing world's population, less agricultural land, we have to grow more food. And by 2050, the world has to produce 60% more food than it's actually producing today just to feed the growing population. The only way to do that is to increase yields. The only way to increase crop yields is to apply the right fertilizer in the right quantities. And the little graph there on the right-hand side shows how the application rates have increased over the last 15 to 20 years. But this has to increase further. That's an average, and Africa as an example, where there's a lot of the world's available agricultural land, the application rates are about 1/10 of the average around the world. And there is this huge need for increased production and sales of fertilizer and therefore potash. We do say it's a strategic asset. That is because of the location and also how it feeds into the market. But in Morocco, agriculture is really important in Morocco. It is one of the key parts of their economy, and the government put a lot of money into developing agriculture in their Green Morocco plan. And that's to improve methods, mechanization, and also understanding of the need for fertilizer and the application of fertilizer in the country. And then if you look at Africa as a whole, where there's expected to be a huge increase in population, African farmland has got to become really productive, and Africa will have to become a net exporter or a large exporter of food going forward. So there will be a huge demand for our product locally, both in Morocco and in Africa. And the graph there shows the increase in imports of potash into Morocco since 2012. And Morocco is now importing close to 1 million tons of potash into the country. And this is driven to a large extent by the large phosphate producer, OCP, the world's largest phosphate producer, who are based in Morocco, who have started to bring in potash to blend with their phosphate products to make multi-nutrient fertilizers for sale in the fertilizer market. So we have a great advantage of being in a country that currently is importing more than the annual production of our project when it's in operations. Talking a bit more about Morocco, it's a very stable jurisdiction. It ranks very highly, certainly in terms of Africa, is one of the most stable and attractive countries for external investment. And the country welcomes foreign direct investment. There's a lot of investment in industry and also in mining. And the country with a mining heritage with OCP understands the mining sector. They have a very favourable royalty scheme in place where we would just pay nominal royalties, and they understand the benefits to the economy of mining and are very supportive of our project and other mining projects in the country. The infrastructure in Morocco is very good. It's very well established. We're very close to the main power distribution network, but our plan is to use 100% renewable energy. That's our target. And there's huge quantities of both solar and wind energy in Morocco. And we're already engaged with one company who is offering us a supply, and there are other companies continually going into business developing renewable energy in Morocco. So power supply and green power supply is readily available. We've looked at the outputs of the project in terms of the benefits to the economy, and this is one of the reasons why the authorities, the government in Morocco, have been very supportive and encouraging of the development of our project. We're going to create just under 2,400 jobs in construction, and then around 1,500 jobs, direct jobs, once we're in operations. And we're targeting to fill a lot of those with local labour, and we will have a significant impact on the local and regional economy once we're in operations, with an expected increase in GDP per capita locally of around 40%. Just summarising now why the project economics are so good. This simple graphic here compares the development of the Chemiset project, the top half, to a typical potash project in Canada, for example. So in terms of the geology, it's very favourable. We have no aquifers, so no water-bearing strata between the surface and the resource that we want to extract. And it's also relatively close to surface, around 500 metres below ground level. So we can access the deposit with two ramps, decline roadways, around 3.5 kilometres long, going from surface, angled down into the potash deposit, mined using conventional equipment without any issues with water. And the cost from the feasibility study of that is around $35 million. A typical potash project in Canada and other similar mining projects, the now Anglo-American X-Sirius project in the UK, deep shafts having to go through aquifers, which is high risk and high cost because you either have to freeze the ground or grout the water-bearing strata as you go through it. And the typical cost of accessing the deposit would be around $1 billion. So a massive difference for us. I've already mentioned the great infrastructure already in place in Morocco. We're very close, less than 15K from the power distribution network. There's a highway passing the site. So we're easy to connect up to the power. And also for taking our product from the site down to the port of Casablanca by road, we have the highway running past the site. So it's a simple junction to establish that access. Typically a Canadian project with connection to a rail link and to power, there'd be a couple of $100 million to spend on infrastructure, whereas our cost is less than $13 million. Our logistical advantage, once in operations, is really key to our low costs, and we'll be right down at the bottom of the cost curve in terms of potash production. We're 130, 150 kilometres to the port by truck, and then from northern Morocco, we can access all of the main potash markets. For the purposes of this, we just use Brazil as an example, which is one of the big markets for potash. We can get our product from the site to the market in Brazil for $24 a tonne. If we look at a Canadian producer and the existing large Canadian producers who are really big players in the market, they're typically around 1,700 kilometres from a port. So high cost of transport to the port. They pay high royalty payments. Their royalty payments in Saskatchewan in Canada are actually $25 a tonne to the Saskatchewan government, which is higher than our total cost of shipping to Brazil. And then they have to ship from Vancouver by the Panama Canal to Brazil, and their cost would be $105 a tonne compared to our $24 a tonne. And this is why the project stands out once it's in operations, because we have access to all of the potash markets at a substantial discount to the competition. So the combination on this slide of the geology and the location means that we have a low cost, low risk development, and then the significant logistical advantages of being in northern Morocco, having access to all of the main markets. And this is really what fed into the outputs of the feasibility study, which was completed last year. And this is just a summary of the main metrics from there. What we've done here, though, is look at a couple of cases for the potash price, because that does vary. The forecast that we used in the feasibility study was a long-term potash price of over $400 per tonne. But here, for the anticipated mine life and annual production and costs, we've looked at a potash price of a conservative, very conservative level of $280 a tonne, and probably what is a more realistic base case of $360 a tonne. But with a 19-year mine life, and that, I have to bear in mind, is just from less than half of the resource that we have available, so we anticipate a life of probably double that in reality. Annual production of 735,000 tonnes of potash and 1 million tonnes of de-icing salt as a byproduct. Capex of just over $400 million. We have a payback of less than 3 or less than 5 years in the conservative case, making significant margins, and an NPV of over $1 billion with a potash price assumption of $360 a tonne. So it really is a great project. And because of our low cost of production, so our all-in sustaining cost to deliver the product to Brazil puts us right down at the bottom, towards the bottom of the cost curve at around $160 a tonne. Recently, we have done a piece of work just to look at whether there is potential to phase the development of the project. So this has two elements. One, we have had a look at whether we could start with a smaller scale project, and that appears to be the case in the scoping study level work that we've done. We haven't done the level of detail as we obviously have with the feasibility study, but we could produce a project producing around 350,000 tonnes of potash, and that would have a reduced capital requirement of around $255 million. But more importantly, from our point of view, what this work identified is how we could increase the output and expand the project to bring in multiple products, bring in potassium sulfate, a higher value potash product, and also additional salt, and ultimately to expand the level of production of potash as a whole. So our phase 4 from this work would give us earnings per annum of around $490 million and an NPV of $2.37 billion. So lots of opportunities to expand the project, and if we needed to, the opportunity to start with a smaller production model. The project has moved very quickly over the years. I joined in July of last year, but a lot of work done prior to that and then subsequently. The highlights really was the feasibility study in June last year, which identified and proved the outstanding potential of the project. Since then, we got the mining permit in February of this year, which is a really key milestone for the project. And what the mining permit, the mining license means is that the Moroccan authorities have identified that we've done the exploration, we've got a confirmed resource, and it's economic to extract, and that's demonstrated by the feasibility study. So they awarded us the license in February of this year. Moving forwards in terms of the near-term milestones, the next big one is to get our environmental approvals, and we expect that in the first half of this year, so this month or at the beginning of next month. We have been engaging for some time with potential strategic partners, and that is a key step for us to bring somebody in to partner us in the development, either as an equity investor, or as a partner with an interest in the product. And we've already been working for some time on putting in the debt funding structure for funding the project. And the aim is that we pull the funds together before the end of the year. Q3 is the target, so that we're able to commence early construction works before the end of the year. And whilst that's an aggressive target, it is still our intention to do all that we can to meet that. And then just focusing a bit more detail on what's going on at the moment. Recently, we moved to AIM, and we believe, given our sort of current size and strategy, this is gives us access to a market environment which is more suited to where we are and what we need to achieve. We will be starting in the next week or two some site investigation work to provide the detailed data to go into the engineering design for the site infrastructure. We'll be doing some more site drilling in the next 2 or 3 months. We'll be drilling down the route of the declines so that we can get detailed information and to go into the detailed design for commencing the decline works next year. We're also doing a detailed feasibility study on the potential to convert some of our potash product, the MOP, into SOP, potassium sulfate, which adds a lot of value to the project. And also we're commencing engineering design work, and we'll be bringing in, as I commented earlier, additional team members to take us forwards into construction. And then just as a final slide, I'll leave this one up for now. One of the key things, and we talk about the way we've approached the environment, using renewable energy, and the way we're developing this project is by doing the right things and doing them in the right way. And that's a very simple summary of our values as a company and the way that we're working with the authorities in Morocco to deliver the best project we can with the best value for all of our stakeholders. With that, I'll finish talking and happy to answer any questions.
Graham, thank you very, very much for that. I think the first question relates, or a number of questions relate to the strategic value of Emmerson. And I think what would be helpful on the background of your presentation is to talk a little bit more about how the fertilizer companies and the potash companies interact on a global basis. Give us some idea of how many big players there are, and that will help explain what the strategic value, I think, of Emmerson is within that framework. Okay,
so there's nine potash producing companies produce over 90% of the potash in the world, and the global consumption's around 70 to 80 million tons per annum. So it's a really well-controlled market, and 5 or 6 of these large players are also fertilizer producers. So every plant needs 6 macronutrients to grow, but the main 3 that are applied in NPK fertilizers are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So K is the potash. So if anybody goes and buys some Miracle Grow or whatever to put on your garden, it'll be an NPK fertilizer. So quite a few of the potash producers are also NPK fertilizer producers. So they produce and the fertilizer market's around 800 million tons a year. So it's a massive market. So they feed into that. But there's quite a few of the fertilizer producers don't have their own potash. So the likes of Yara, for example, a Norwegian company, have all of the nitrogen they need from the oil and gas, but they don't have the potassium. They have to buy that from their competitors in the fertilizer market. OCP are another example, the world's largest phosphate producers in Morocco, also produce NPKs. They have to buy their potash from their competitors. So we, as an independent in that market, we have a very valuable product because it is very attractive to fertilizer producers who currently are buying from their competitors. So we offer, that really is a trump card to us at the moment in ongoing discussions with potential strategic partners, that we have product that, we're not competing with them in the fertilizer market. We do have a great advantage.
Thank you. Can we just go back to the political and constitutional framework of Morocco, because I don't think many people really understand. What reassurance can you give investors that this will not be a problem, either from a tax regime or nationalization problem, or a government issue, or anything that could destabilize the whole project? I understand the government's obviously very favorable towards you and what you're doing. The question is, are there any counterforces within the political or constitutional system that could upset that?
Well, we don't believe so. I mean, the attitude has been and is currently, they're very encouraging, they're very straightforward. Our project is of regional and national importance. The economic benefits that it delivers, they see. Therefore they want it to work, and they're helping us get to that point that we can get it into production. They've given us the mining license, so they obviously trust we have the capabilities to deliver the project. There's many mining companies operate in very similar circumstances to Morocco, and in Africa, Morocco is amongst the most stable jurisdictions. There's no question of that, and it's very attractive. There's a lot of large overseas companies, car companies, invest in Morocco because it is stable. So, we really don't see any suggestion that changes. They understand what the project will bring, and they see us as a company that can deliver that benefit to the country.
Okay, so if we move on to the funding side of life, the project funding side of life, which you referred to, this is a question from Stephen. How is the debate developing really all-in versus phased development amongst management, and particularly amongst the banks and strategic partners? And you might want to weave into that answer your attitude towards the debt equity balance.
I can't say too much about certain discussions that are ongoing, obviously, but one thing that is, has sort of stood out with ongoing discussions with potential strategic equity partners, and particularly those who have an interest in the product, is that they have an interest in a substantial output. So the larger scale project is more attractive to those parties. That is clear. So obviously that will be our focus, and we're talking about and strategic partners here who can put a lot of the funds in that we require to develop this project. So the larger project makes more sense in regard to that, and that is sort of in our focus. In all the presentations we give, we talk about the need for a strategic partner to help us with the equity side of the investment required. And if there's an interest in the product, then obviously the larger project is the way forward. In terms of the debt to equity ratio, we are looking at around 70-30 debt to equity. That's the target, and our advisors are pretty confident that we can achieve that. And there's discussions ongoing with banks from the debt side of that, and also with export credit agencies who are very interested in the project. And we are sort of engaged with 2 or 3 ECAs who understand the project, understand mining projects, and are very interested in supporting the project with the export sort of guarantees that they put in place, which obviously then help with the banks and securing the debt.
Okay, we got a specific question from Lloyd about your relationship with OCP Group, and now that the environmental permit is forthcoming in due course, what planned conversations will you have as a result of that with OCP? Will there be any changes?
Well, we have, over the years and prior to me joining, there were conversations with OCP. We have been engaged with them. I have had conversations. Those are ongoing. I can't really comment any further than that on that. But obviously, the fact that we have our mining license and the environmental approval, will be forthcoming. I think we're now seen as we're real. We know what we're doing. We've demonstrated that. So you can have conversations over a long period of time, and if people aren't, completely clear that you're serious and you've got the capabilities, then they're just conversations. I think the conversations, will be different, are different. We're moving towards construction. We intend to finance the project and build it, and that will encourage various parties, not only OCP, to look at us and feel that there's a good value in having a discussion.
Okay, so we only got time for one more question. It's a classic question. It's basically about your dividend policy in due course, and what is your long-term approach to dividends once you are basically generating significant profits? Will you have a payout ratio of 25-30%, or is it too early to say?
I would say it's too early to say. I mean, the focus, my focus, and the focus of the team at the moment is solely on moving forwards, doing the engineering work we need to do so we're construction ready, and pulling the funding strategy together so that we have the funds to commence construction. I haven't thought, that's the key to me. That unlocks the value, the potential for the value. And we know that once we're in operations, we'll be generating a lot of cash, and obviously, the shareholders need a return on their investment. So, that will be the plan. But the team is completely focused on delivering what we need to deliver this year to get us into construction, early construction works at the end of this year.
Thank you very much indeed.
Graham, thank you for that. Very interesting. Some good points on ESG as well there. A good flavour of the scale of the market and the competition that there is out there. That was really insightful. Thank you very much indeed. I hope you've all found this afternoon's event helpful. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their contribution today, and you, the audience, for taking part in the forum, and thank you very much.